Welcome to the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And now, your host, Heather Newman.
Hello, everyone. Here we are again for another Mavens Do It Better podcast, where we interview extraordinary experts who bring a light to our world. And I certainly have a light right here with me. Andy Ginn, how are you? Yay.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. My goodness. It's been a while since we were on, the webinar together a while back.
Yeah.
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 It was almost a year, right?
I was thinking it's a year ago. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. My goodness. So
an extraordinary year as well.
Yes, a very extraordinary year coming up. It's odd to be coming up on sort of anniversaries of pandemic things, you know. I think a lot of us obviously are going through that. So, Andy, where are you coming from today?
So I live in a little village in the West Country in the UK, just outside Bath. So a lot of Americans know Bath. It's a beautiful city, which is Georgian and goes right back to Roman times.
Yeah.
Charles Dickens lived here, Jane Austen. And as I said, the oldest building in the center of the city is about 2,000 years old.
Wow. And it's just beautiful when you say it.
Thank you.
No, it is. It's beautiful. I love hearing it, from someone who's from there. It's just such a beautiful way to say that. So yeah, that's super cool. That's neat. Wow. And you've born and raised there, from there originally?
No, I was born down in the south of England, in Hampshire.
Okay.
My father actually worked for IBM in the 60s. He was a real groundbreaker in our technology sector, and IBM has a lab there, which they still have. So I was born there, but at the age of about 3, we moved to Scotland. IBM had a big plant up there, which my dad helped run. And apparently when I was little, I had a real Glaswegian accent. Nobody could understand a word that I said. And then we moved, the IBM, been moved. We moved down to East Anglia, just outside Cambridge, when I was 11, where I lived until I was in my early 20s, when I moved to the Netherlands for work.
Oh, fun.
And then I came back here in the 90s.
Yeah. So a little bit all over, but a little bit of home too. That's super cool. Yeah. Well, and we met through a mutual colleague and friend. And that was a lot of fun because the HP where you and she work, you had me in to do a bit of a workshop on, power skills and well-being and, mental health and all of that stuff. And so how long have you been working at HP and what do you do there?
So I joined what was then HP.
Oh, yeah, HPE.
So that was in 1999.
Okay.
And I joined to run the e-commerce division in those good old days.
Yeah.
I'm now, after a number of different moves, I'm now the tech lead in the UK for information management and collaboration.
Okay.
So lots of things to do with SharePoint and OneDrive, M365, all those good things. And I'm also solution architect. So I work with our clients in Pointnext services to deliver transformation. And Pointnext Services is one of these sorts of organizations where we're interested in a broad range of skills, not just pure technology, if you like. So one of the reasons that we got you guys in to talk to us was that range of skills, that the soft skills are just as important as the technology skills in our book. Mm-hmm. A lot of the things that we do with our clients are all around user-centric transformation. So what does this technology do for the people in the organization, not just updating collaboration platforms, for example?
Right. That's super cool. Do you think it's a follow in your footsteps from your dad a bit, or was it something you always sort of wanted, or was it roundabout, or how did you get in?
It was, I remember as a very small child going to the IBM buildings, and they had big tape drives and punch cards, and it was all very cool. And of course, I grew up with Star Trek and Doctor Who and these sorts of things. So I've always been interested in it. Actually, when I left school, I really didn't know what I wanted to do. So I actually went into menswear to start off with. So I was selling suits and things like that. And then one day I just thought, this actually isn't for me. I retrained to be a programmer. And the UK was really pushing in the 80s to get people into IT.
Right.
So I took a government training course, got a job at Lloyd's Register of Shipping in London, looking at statistical analysis of why ships sink, and then moved to Logica as a software engineer, doing industrial command and control systems for robots and pipelines and air traffic control and all these sorts of things. So it's been a varied career, an interesting one.
Yes, from suits to robots. So
there you go.
That's awesome, and a shout out to Elsia, who introduced us as well. So she's such a great, awesome. I got to meet her at SharePoint Saturday London a few years back, and that's how we all got connected. And she's a fun person with a beautiful
She's
mind.
A powerhouse.
Yeah, she just is a powerhouse. And you all work on, so the name of your group, the tech group that I spoke to, that you all work on and run together, and she has you in, it's the tech diversity group there at HPE. Yeah.
Yeah. So as I said, in HPE, the premise of diversity and inclusion is incredibly important.
Yep.
But also taking that out to our clients.
Mm-hmm.
So our management and change group is incredibly important to us, and getting those skills into people, everybody, sales guys, real techies, everybody can talk about diversity and inclusion, talk about how the user is the most important element of any transformation program. But Elsia also is, so she works in the same division as me.
Mm-hmm.
We both work for the same boss, an amazing guy called Steve Mills. He's just a great guy to work for. But she also founded a not-for-profit called Pocket Angel.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of that is to bring digital technology into the sector where we're helping people experiencing homelessness to get back on their feet. She asked me to join that organization in my spare time. Not that any of us have a lot of that, but a couple of years ago, and we've built out a digital platform. It's live. We're trying it out in the south coast of England to make sure that it works properly before we spread out into other areas.
Yeah, that's amazing. And so it's an actual, because I think she was on the podcast probably maybe about 6 months ago now. We talked a little bit about it then, and it was still sort of getting funded, getting figured out and finished, I guess. And so the idea is that with it, it's an app, right? That explain how it works a little bit, because it's such a cool concept.
Sure. So we were just about ready to launch in February of last year. The UK went into lockdown on March 16th. So we're coming out for our first anniversary, which is really quite bizarre because we're still in full lockdown. We've been in, we've been out, we're doing the hokey cokey. And when we went into the lockdown the first time, the UK government said some of the most vulnerable people are people who are sleeping rough.
Mm-hmm.
So they had a program in place to find every rough sleeper somewhere to sleep undercover, in a building. Not fantastic support, but at least they weren't actually on the street. So the premise of Pocket Angel is, as a member of the public, you can provide a voucher with a code to somebody who is experiencing homelessness, and they can use that to get services, whether it's food, whether it's clothing, hygiene kits, whatever it is. But suddenly those people weren't on the street, and actually the public weren't on the street either.
Right.
So we pivoted the app quite quickly. We have a great software company that we're working with to change the premise so that instead of you buying a voucher and having it in your pocket, you buy a voucher and you give it to us. And we use the vouchers, we can consolidate them together, and we work with organizations who are providing food and necessary services to those experiencing homelessness. And we give that consolidated support to the organizations who are helping the homeless.
That's amazing. Wow. I wondered, because she and I have talked a little bit about it, but I wasn't sure about the pivot. And I knew that there was one, because that was such, you were about to do this thing in it. Oh my goodness. We've all had to pivot so many things.
Yeah, absolutely. So we launched in September. So we took the summer to rebuild the app, test it all, make sure it was working correctly, doing some marketing and communications and things like that. And we actually launched in September. Yeah. And the idea was that we might get a few dozen users over the first 6 months and sell a few vouchers, because we expected it to have a slow start. We've got around about 200 registered users now. Wow. We're very strong on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and we are selling dozens and dozens and dozens of vouchers. We've been able to supply a lot of food, a lot of clothing and things like that already in our first less than 6 months. And we've recently, it's been very cold here in the UK for about 2 or 3 weeks. So we ran a very fast appeal for clothing, and we got hundreds of items of jumpers and coats and T-shirts and socks and things like that, which we were able to give to our partners to supply to people who actually needed them. It was really heartwarming.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for doing that. And so it's now in one place. I would assume that there's thoughts of how can we expand, get the mix right, I guess, and then figure out how to bring it out into, more places, obviously in England than all over, right? Yeah.
So when we started, it was just Alcia and me. And we were trying to do it, as I said, evenings and weekends. We've now got a fantastic band of volunteers who are helping us. Alcia and I have been able to delegate a load of work to the volunteers. It's been, again, really heartwarming. And it's given us the impetus to say, okay, we get how this thing works now. So we've joined up with some other organisations in the UK. Like there's a partner of ours called On Hand, which is it links corporates with people who need help. So it's a volunteer type organisation. Another one called Just Life. There's lots of organisations that are trying to help. So we're looking at Manchester. We're looking at Edinburgh. Looking at parts of London. London is a big nut to crack because it's so huge. So we have to look at small parts of it. And we've had contacts from Los Angeles, from New York, from Sydney, from Tokyo. This problem is everywhere. So we're trying to figure out how to actually expand, but still keep it under control.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I know there's folks who are listening. Pocket, Pocket, Angel Home is the Instagram account that you can go check out what's going on there and what's happening. And you've got a whole link tree in there of links out to everything that you're doing. And so while we're talking here, everybody pull out your phones and give Pocket Angel definitely a hello on Instagram and see what they're doing there for sure. It is. I took a drive down to downtown Los Angeles. We're locked down and staying home and all of that stuff, and have been too. But I was going down there to run some errands and stuff. And I just we have a big homeless problem here in LA, and it's monumental just to see kind of what's going on. It's just expanded, and so I think programs like this that can help and get. Because everybody's got extra stuff around, you know what I mean?
Exactly. There's a UK journalist called Simon Reeve. I was watching one of his shows a couple of weeks ago talking about homeless people in California, and there's people sleeping. Your overpasses, your roads actually have tunnels underneath them, or crawl spaces underneath them, and there are people living in those crawl spaces. It's everybody is. There's a saying that nobody is more than 3 paychecks away from being homeless. So if you lost your job and you had no income and you had no support, how quickly would it be that you go from a warm, comfortable house to actually living on the street? Yeah. And I think that there's a lot. We are very privileged people. We have fascinating job, good salary, full stomachs, and if we can give something back to help other people, then I think that's part of what we're here for. And Alcia is an absolute advocate of that. She's as I said, a real powerhouse.
Yeah, she is. She is. And you're right. You know what I mean? I feel like, the being able to have we're working at tech companies, and we also like get to do things that we're passionate about, and having those things be what we do to help other people is super important and needed and necessary, when you can lean on each other to create something amazing. And so I just, thank you, first of all. And anyone who is listening, who has, who works in that area or also is interested, please do check out what's going on with their app, because it's something that, could very easily expand into any city and across the world for sure. So
absolutely. Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, I don't know if everybody, in the United States, we say homeless. And I think the term rough sleeper, I don't know if that's so here.
So, a rough sleeper is somebody who's actually sleeping on the street. So the person you see, tucked up in the doorway of a shop or a store, as you would say. Yeah. The other problem is hidden homeless. So people who are sleeping on other people's couches or sleeping, in those sorts of places. So you don't actually see them, right? But it's a massive problem, a massive challenge for society. We call them rough sleepers because they're sleeping rough. Sort of does exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah, exactly. I just thought it's when I see it, and I said I'd actually not heard that term before, so I wanted to make sure that those of us maybe from the U.S. who haven't heard that term knew what that meant.
Sure,
what that was.
No, I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see your TARDIS in the background.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a little model TARDIS. Unfortunately, the batteries have failed, so it doesn't make a noise when I open it, but it should do. Doctor Who, I know that Doctor Who is coming into America because of BBC America. It's shown a lot, but it is one of the longest running sci-fi shows in the world. It's been on since the early 60s. It had a little break in the 80s, but the premise is that the Doctor is a Time Lord, and he or she, it's a female Doctor at the moment, can regenerate when they die. They regenerate into a new body. So there have been 13 actors playing the Doctor since the early 60s, and it's just a really cool thing.
I had not watched, and my boyfriend and he was like, "Have you ever watched Doctor Who?" And I said, "Not really." And he was like, "You love sci-fi and you like are an Anglophile. Like, what is wrong with you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I just missed it, And so we started watching it this last year, and I am enamored with the whole thing. I love it. I cry all the time. I feel like it's just so, I know it's like, I bought him like a TARDIS like that, but it's an alarm clock. And so it's a little alarm clock. And so the alarm is the sound of the TARDIS.
That's cool.
And it shines the clock up top on the ceiling. And I think I bought it for me, but I gave it to him because I like it so much.
There was a real twist. I don't want to give any spoilers out, but there was a real twist in the last series where the latest Doctor is, as I said, the first time a lady has played the Doctor, and there was a lot of discussion about that. So so they have a woman playing the Doctor, and in the last series they actually introduced another female playing the Doctor, who's quite a famous actor in the UK, and it's the first time that we've had a person of colour playing the Doctor. So that's a real, and they kept it so secret. The BBC are fantastic at keeping things secret,
right?
And so everybody went, "What?" So, because it's like, we now have 2 doctors. How's that possible?
I know. It's like, huh? But yeah, no, I love it. Well, and I think I'm in the season. We're in the it's the 13th season, 13th Doctor. So we're in that right now. And I've just been, I don't know. I've loved all of them. It's like, you get so hooked on one of them and then you're like, I'm not going to like it, when they shift. And then I'm like, I'm groovy. I totally like it. Like, it's totally like, I don't know. It's so weird like that. I feel.
And everybody has their favorite doctor. My doctor is actually all the way back in the 1970s, a guy called Tom Baker. He was a brilliant actor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. David Tennant is still kind of, I think, my favorite. Although I love Matt Smith though too. I don't know. I love them all. I mean, it's been so cool to get into that and then find out other Whovians, you know what I mean, around that. It's just like, I'm like people's backgrounds will be like, I see a TARDIS or I see a Dalek or whatever. it's like Star Trek or Star Wars, I guess, the same. But yeah, and then just started watching Stranger Things too, because I kind of missed that when that first came out. Have you watched that at all?
Yeah, a little bit. It's not one that I've watched a lot of. To be honest with you, with work is crazy. We are really busy, and with Pocket Angel, I don't have a huge amount of time to watch TV at the moment. So.
Yeah, I hear you. It's kind of the one thing that, like, I like television, but it's still a screen. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think for me, like, I've been trying to listen to things or go outside, I mean, and I live in LA, so, I have a little bit of more outside than other people do in the winter right now too. But
sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Do you find that that's something for you? Screen time?
It's weird that pre lockdown, I did a lot of traveling, this last year has been very strange for me in the fact that I haven't been on trains and I haven't been staying in hotels and, I travel all over the UK.
Yeah, right.
And that commute time was podcast time and reading time and time where I could de-stress, but also learn.
Right.
And now, I'm sitting at my desk here and 30 seconds later, I'm in my living space.
Yeah.
So, my podcast listening has actually gone down a lot in the last year.
Yeah.
I've picked up other hobbies. I'm much fitter now than I've been in a long time. I have a trainer lady called Sarah Lillywhite who is absolutely brilliant. She does live Zoom classes 2 or 3 times a week. Only 4 or 5 of us, and I've got my weights over here and my mats, and so I am actually a lot fitter than I was. And I've taken up knitting, which I find incredibly relaxing.
Oh my goodness, that's so cool! Yeah, I feel like it's run the gamut. I either talk to people and they're like, "I am the fittest I've been in forever," and then other folks that are like, "I can't." Like I've gained weight and I'm whatever, you know what I mean? It's sort of, it's not the middle, like it's definitely on the poles of either side. Knitting, huh? I used to crochet. Yeah. I haven't knitted. I know Alcia is a knitter as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, we started a Pocket Angel knit and natter group. So we get on Zoom and we'll have a chat. And and I have my knitting bag.
Oh my goodness, look at that.
There's my yarn and yeah.
She showed me some knitting yarn and it was called oh my god, I love the name of it. It was Wool and the Gang. Like Cool and the Gang. That's got to be an English
Wool and
company,
the Gang are
right?
Yeah, they're a great company, and they do wool like crazy sexy wool, which is really lovely stuff. So it's a good company.
That was super cool. Anyway, play on names, and who doesn't love Cool and the Gang anyway? That's so funny. So for you, you've been working out more. So I was just thinking, you're so busy. So like the work-life balance for you has really gone into sort of gym and knitting and that kind of thing. Yeah.
To de-stress, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I never thought I'd miss the day that I'd see the day that I missed traveling into London on the train and getting on the tube and staying in Hilton hotels. And I do miss it. It's weird, but but the flip side of it, as I said, is that because there is no commuting time and there is no staying away, I'm eating much better. No hotel foods and fried chicken and stuff like that.
Totally.
And I've had time to keep fit and things like that.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I think with some of the things that struck me about your company too, with HPE is that, and, I joined Microsoft back now 8 months ago, and just the pinpointing of wellness and thinking about mental health and all of that stuff. I mean, I think I learned from you all sort of that, no meeting or Wellness Friday,
Yeah.
I think you all were the first to do stuff like that.
Yeah, so every second Friday of the month, we get the afternoon off. The whole company gets the afternoon off, unless you've got a role which means that you have to be supporting a client or something like that. Right. But the idea is that we shut down at Friday lunchtime, and that's it. They really support people in the community as well. So we have something called HPE Gives. So if I'm working on Pocket Angel, I can log my time into HPE Gives, right. And I'm given, I think it's 40 volunteer hours a year. Wow. So that's hours that I can take during the working day to work on volunteer activities. I log it into HPE Gives so that they can track the time, but they also give me charity dollars. So this is nice. Money that I then give to charities.
Oh, cool. Oh, I love
so
that.
They actually pay me for my volunteer time. And
right.
that's even if I'm doing it in the evenings and the weekends.
Right.
It is very cool.
That's super cool. Yeah. I mean, I think that's so important. And the focus on it, I think in some places we're doing it pre-pandemic, but I feel like obviously we've had to really take a look at that, and that virtual commute, or the commute we lost, like giving yourself a virtual commute. I found, for me, I have to do it. I have to have a little bit of transition time before I walk out of my office area. I have a room, luckily, but into my life space, although it's such a blend, but I kind of have to have that moment. And I finally set that up with my boyfriend. I was just like, okay, and he works a lot in my office. It's really our office with me, but we both have headphones on in different spaces. But then when you kind of go out into the living room, it's sort of like, I need a moment, before.
Yeah. I actually bought myself these wireless headset, so I can actually get up and walk around when I'm on meetings and things, and I can get out into the back garden. I think you'd call it a backyard, and just walk around in the sun while I'm actually on a call. People sometimes go, "You're on video and you've left your desk." And it's like, oh, okay, I'm back.
Right, totally. Yeah. Well, and I have people now who just take calls when they're walking. They're just like, I'm walking. And you're like, okay, that sounds good. I love it. Or I've set up calls where I'm like, can we walk or just not be on video or just do whatever, that kind of thing. So yeah, I love it. For you, so you have Pocket Angel, and then for your job, what's kind of what's the most sort of thing that's sort of really exciting for you right now?
Right now, I think there's a lot of organizations are in. Well, obviously, everybody's in the same boat in that they are suddenly, to use a very English expression, moving from an organization which has bums on seats to we can't actually see the people that we're paying to do a job. Right. So they're shifting this mindset of remote working, and how do we deal with that? And the technology is only one part of it. So obviously introducing things like Teams and SharePoint's co-authoring capabilities and these sort of things are incredibly important to organizations. But they also need to figure out how their culture and their meaning changes when teams are scattered all over the teams with a lowercase t are scattered all across the country. Right. So how do we maintain, and HP is doing the same thing, how do we maintain that cohesion within the group that are working together when you don't have the chat over a coffee about did you watch Doctor Who last night and things like that. So it's trying to maintain that culture, trying to maintain that cohesion, trying to maintain why people work for a particular organization is a real challenge for a lot of organizations, and we're helping them with that, and we're learning as we go along. It's an incredibly important part, because a lot of organizations, including HPE, have already stated we're never going back to the office ever. our offices are going to become innovation centres.
Right.
So if we need to go in to do whiteboarding, we do work which we can't, for whatever reason, do virtually.
Yeah.
So if we're going in for those innovation thinking sessions, just occasionally to meet up,
right.
that's what we're going to be transitioning to, and a lot of organisations are like that.
Yeah.
So in this new world, how do you make sure that a group of people stay cohesive?
Yeah. No, absolutely.
It's an exciting challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So HPE is saying work from home. Wow.
So when we come out of lockdown, the current transition for the UK is that we should be fully out of lockdown by middle of June. There's a massive vaccination program going on at the moment. We've vaccinated something like a third of the population already.
Right.
With the first dose. Second dose is coming down the line. The UK is saying there's a 12-week gap between the first dose and the second dose.
Yep.
I've already had my first one. I'm waiting for my second one. So we should be fully reopened by the 21st of June.
Wow.
But even after that, we're not going back to having thousands of people sitting in an office from 9 to 5:30.
Yeah.
It's just not the way we're going to work anymore.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of, even if you were going in, it's like, some places are, no working officially with offices, or it's halftime. You can work 50% of your time at home or whatever. So, it's like, you're going to have to coordinate, like if you're going to actually have a team meeting where everybody's there, it's like, all right, is it the Thursday? But that doesn't always work for everybody. And and like, just like all that. And some people will never be able to do that because of their own, comfortability or their own health or whatever, So exactly. It's definitely people keep saying, when we get back to normal. And I was like, I don't think
we'll never go back to normal.
And there is normal.
Go back to the old normal.
The old normal.
We're going to use the new normal.
Yeah. And I don't know. And I don't really like the word normal anyway, but
I've never been normal, so
I know. Totally. I'm like, I'm waving my freak flag, really, you know what I mean? Just like, okay,
I've embraced the COVID hair, so I look more like Tarzan than I ever did.
I was gonna say, I was like, your hair's long too. It's like, it looks great. So
thank you.
Yeah, I let mine's pretty long too for me.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you. And I literally, it was last weekend. I finally called my hairdresser and I was like, it has been a year. And she was like, send me a picture. And I sent her a picture. She's like, people pay to have their hair look like that. Because it was like sort of like grown out and like a brunette to like here, right? She's like, that's called blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't know what it's called, but I need a zhuzh. I just need and so I literally double masked and she was doing her stuff at her place and it was, outside and everything. And again, I'm here in California, so it's like, we can do that stuff outside, but it was weird, but also great. Like, I just was like, another human being, I was like, what? This is so weird. Yeah. Cause we've been super locked down too. Wow. So
I think the first boot camp that I turned up to with Sarah Lillywhite, and I had my hair in a ponytail. She was going, wow, no, it really is time that you went to the hairdresser.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, it's been in a wild ride for this past year. That is for sure. Especially since we all met within that time. I
love going on vacation in the States, and you guys just know how to relax, I love Boston. There's a place in South Carolina called Hilton Head Island that I've been to regularly. Been to Florida, been to California. Yeah, I have friends who live in San Francisco and other friends who live in Seattle. Yeah, I just love it over there. But it just haven't been. Yeah, can't get on a plane. So
I'm with you. Well, 2019 I did 20. I think I spoke at like 28 or 29 events in person in 6 different countries. Like So I was, I put my suitcase up, and it's been a year and a half since I've been on a plane, and I've driven to Seattle twice from here, and that's about an 18-hour drive to go up. But other than that, yeah, I do miss it too.
Facebook pops up. Do you remember when you were in Florida talking at Ignite? I do. Mm-hmm. Stop reminding me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I don't want to leave that. Yeah, it is one of those things. Yeah. I don't know. Do you feel like, are you starting to think about planning stuff a bit now? I think trying to anyway.
Thinking about it, I think is the. I was actually very lucky last August. We came out of lockdown for a few months, then we went back into lockdown.
Right.
And in that little window of opportunity, I actually had a vacation on a Greek island.
Oh my!
So, got an email from one of the travel companies who said, basically, you can go tomorrow. And you can fly from your local airport, and these are all the COVID checks and balances that we've put in place to make sure that everybody's safe.
Right.
Jumped on a plane, went and lay in the sun for 2 weeks, and I was really lucky. And I'm very happy to say I was incredibly lucky.
Right.
So this year I think is going to be the same thing, which is everything's going to be very, very last minute.
Yeah, I think people are going to be like, boom, and then go or do or whatever, and saving up points and all that kind of stuff. So I just for you've had this really beautiful long career in technology, and it's bounced around for you in different things. Do you, like, if you were, I'm working with folks, mentoring, and folks who are like looking for jobs and all of that. And it's like looking for a job in this time, and also even trying to, finish college in this time is a challenge. And I've been thinking and talking with folks like us who've been, in our jobs for a while and in careers, like advice for folks, about what to look for, what's hot, where should they be focusing their energies. I mean, you can focus it on all kinds of things. If you decide to be a doctor, that's that. But I think like as far as the technology realm,
I think for kids that are just coming into, and in fact, one of my nephews, who's in his late 20s, he's also joined the industry. So he's third generation, which is very cool.
Cool.
But for kids that are just starting out, I think that there's been a switch in the last 10, 15 years. There was a real move 10 or 15 years ago to move everything offshore. So virtually all software development went offshore. There was certainly in the UK, there was very little career prospects for what I'd call hardcore software engineers.
Right.
That's changed a bit with things like the advent of apps and agile, where you can't send off a set of requirements to somebody and then wait a few months to get it back and go, that's not quite what I meant. So it's easier to have the people sitting right next to you to be able to do that work. So there's a distinct difference between people who write code and people who are software engineers. And I think that discipline of software engineering is actually a really important thing still to have. So there are some really great opportunities in that area. But I think that if you can combine that with the ability to talk and understand business, that's a real advantage. So if you're a technician who can speak business language and speak to business people and understand what it is that they're saying, translate that into technology, that's a really, really strong skill to have.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think I think people being super specialized is great as well, but I also feel like the opportunity to advance maybe a little bit more quickly, you have that sort of crossover piece of it, right? And especially right now when, we're going to continue, like we're saying, working from home and things like that, right? So it's like the ability to cross the chasm between business and IT. I think you're absolutely right that that's where it's at. And I have a cat who decided to join Hi.
Giant cat head suddenly appeared.
Yes. What's going on? He's like, I think it's time for a midday snack is what's happening right here. So he put a claw in my leg about 10 minutes ago, which is why I went, whoa.
Because what's the time over there? It's what, 10 to 1? Is that right?
It's 1:47. Yeah. So PM. Yeah. So anyway, but that's funny. Well, okay. So that's great. So I think that takes me to our last question of inspiration and moments and sparks of if you want to share with our listeners. I love thinking about moments and sparks that make us who we are, and something for now of today, like something, book, person, place, thing, poem that seats you kind of in really who you are today in this moment, And so I think,
it's an interesting one because there are certain pivotal points in life. You can say, if it's that sliding doors moment in that movie, where if you'd done something different, your life would be completely different.
Yep.
And I think that if you really analyze your life, you can probably find 5 or 6 sliding door moments.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think that it's difficult. Over a 30-year career, it's difficult to say, this is important or that's important.
Mm-hmm.
When I first started in my career, there was a guy who he was my age now, and a guy called Mike Jerome, who really helped me when I was first starting in my career. He basically mentored me. Mm-hmm. He gave me lots of help and advice, and I think my career wouldn't be what it is if he hadn't done that. He was the one who really helped me understand that it's not all about technology, it's about people as well.
Yeah.
So rather than a poem or a book or something like that, Mike was a really great guy. And one of the reasons I tried to help the younger generation coming into the industry is because I want to give back what he gave to me.
Yeah.
So there are certain things, there are certain songs like A Hurricane by Neil Young that just take me back to when I was young and I was going to say, and had hair. I have hair.
Yeah.
I've never really been big into poetry, to be honest with you, but I mean, I love reading. You can see from all the books around me.
Yeah, sure.
I love reading. But and again, there are so many books that have meant something to me that I go back to over and again. But if there was one thing that I think it is that guy that just helped me in the first couple of years of my career.
Yeah. Shout out to the people that bring us along and teach us. Yeah. Right. Shout out to Mike. Yeah.
Shout out to Mike down at that end, and right up at this end. Shout out to Steve Mills and Alcia Loach at this end.
Right on. Yeah. And it continues and continues. And thank you for giving back too. Super important that we do that for sure. Oh my goodness. It's so nice to see you and talk with you. It's been a while and it's so nice to hear your story. I love it that I have an image of my father as well. He worked at JCPenney, so he's a retail guy. And so like going into the JCPenney store where he was a manager and going in and sitting in his desk at his office, like I was fascinated with like paper clips, for goodness sake. You know what I mean? Like just like, but like that like I talk to a lot of people have that with the dads, especially going into an office and working a big job and all of that kind of stuff. And
I still have my father's typewriter that he used to write his reports on in the 1960s. And it sits here on my desk.
Yeah.
And when I'm sitting there writing reports or designs or whatnot, I sometimes look at that and I think, what would he do?
Yeah.
How would he phrase that?
Totally. Oh, that's so cool. Yeah. Our dads, our parents, moms and dads, that influence on us is so cool. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you for sharing the typewriter. That was awesome. Good.
It's quite a thing.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, hey, thank you, Andy, for being on the show and sharing your story with our listeners. I really appreciate it. So.
It was. Thank you for having me. We need to get, once all this craziness is over, we'll get together and have a little glass of water or Something like that.
I think that sounds wonderful. Yeah, or a pint of cider or something. I don't know, but yes, for sure. Okay, well, wonderful. Andy, thank you so much. And everyone, that has been another episode of the Mavens Do It Better podcast. And here is to another beautiful day on this big blue spinning sphere. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Andy. Yay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers. The original music on this podcast was created by Jesse Case.